Hey, welcome back to Twisty on Bass, where we talk about real life insight for playing and recording bass guitar. Today we're going to check out how to use an iPad or another mobile device in your live rig. Let's go. During a recording process, it's easy to leverage a wide variety of sounds and instruments to augment your music. But transporting that to a live stage can be a bit of a challenge. We all don't have the pocket money to be able to put a 30-piece orchestra on a small stage. It's at this point that bands often introduce sound effects and in many cases backing tracks to help the audience experience more of that recorded picture. In order to incorporate these background sounds, a laptop or a tablet is required. In this video, we're going to go through what's required to connect an iPad to your front of house, why I prefer it over a laptop, and some of the uses I have for augmenting our live performances with this iPad. Let's check it out. In my opinion, using an iPad for playing synth applications or triggering sounds during a live performance can offer some unique advantages over a MacBook or a laptop. There's the portability and form factor. An iPad's sleek design and feather-light build make your ultimate gig buddy. In other words, I can keep it in my backpack, bring it on stage, and then put it away at the end. Its portability is a game changer. It allows me to breeze through venues without breaking a sweat. No more lugging around hefty laptops when I'm setting up my performance. The iPad's nimbleness gives me the freedom to adapt to any space. I can play on a big stage or a small stage, but I'm not taking up that much room. If you're traveling light or you're in a one-person show and you don't have a backline or amp cabs to place everything on, or a dedicated crew to be pressing the buttons for you, having an iPad perched on a mic stand in front of you is the epitome of convenience. It puts power and control in your fingertips. The ability to touch the screen and move dials like you would on a real device gives you a more tactile and intuitive interaction with synth applications. It can mimic hardware synthesizers more effectively, provides hands-on experience that some musicians find much more engaging and expressive compared to using a trackpad or mouse. Can you imagine standing on stage and trying to move a mouse around? While not necessarily a big bonus for live performances, it can make setting up your sounds better. Often you don't change the settings on your synth when you're playing live, but setting it up pre-gig is really helpful. The App Store offers a wide array of dedicated music production and synth apps optimized for iPad. These apps often take full advantage of the device's capabilities, offering specialized features such as interfacing with the camera, etc., that might not be available on MacBook software. Additionally, the touch interface can be customized in many of these apps for live performances, allowing you to personalize the setups and layouts to suit your setup. Change the way the faders work, how you press them, don't press them, which page they're on, etc. There's the versatility in performance in your setup. iPads easily integrate into existing setups with various accessories like MIDI controllers and other hardware peripherals. In a previous video, we've talked about how we integrate the iPad with the Helix to control our patches from the iPad, as an example. They offer the flexibility on how you connect and control your synth applications, allowing for versatile performance configurations. You could use a keyboard, you could use a Macmillan 12-step, any other type of MIDI interface to control the app. And then there's control over your stage. The main reason I moved to an iPad over a MacBook for my live rig is the ability to have all of my non-bass needs in a single platform in front of me. We use an Allen & Heath unit for our in-ear monitoring system, which has an iPad application to allow me to control my in-ear mix. So I use the iPad to control what I can hear when I'm playing. As per my previous video, which you can see in the link above, I also use BandHelper to provide me with a set list for a show, which can be used to change the Helix presets and play sound clips for a specific song. It then becomes a natural extension for me to be able to use the iPad for use as a MIDI controller, such as for my Macmillan 12-step, to enable me to play synth without the need for a second device, like a laptop. So instead of carrying a laptop and an iPad, I'm now just carrying one device. Also the price. An iPad is significantly cheaper than a MacBook, so if I lose it or break it, it's a lot easier to replace than $5,000 for a MacBook. And there's also the added advantage of being able to use the iPad for non-musical things on the bus or in the hotel. YouTube videos, you can watch Twisty on Bass all day long. Subscribe below. There are some limitations with the iPad though over a MacBook or a laptop. Multitasking on the iPad is interesting, to say the least, and running multiple applications often means switching between them, and some won't be active while they're in the background. Also, there's a number of desktop applications such as Ableton Live and MainStage that are commonly used by performing musicians that are not available on the iPad. There are alternatives, and if, like me, this is the approach you want to follow, we can go through some of the options for you in this video. So what are you going to need? Obviously you're going to need an iPad. Some functions you're wanting to achieve may work on an iPhone or another Android tablet device, but I found for my use, the iPad has all the capability that I need. As for which iPad, again, that depends on what you're going to use it for and how much power you're going to need to drive through that device. For most live application, an iPad Air or even an iPad mini, depending on how much of the screen real estate you want to see, should be perfect. Often I'll just use my iPhone for the set list and sometimes the in-ear mix, so I don't need the full iPad. Based on that, I'm pretty sure that an iPad mini would be perfect for some of the functions that I use. I do use an iPad M2 Pro, but that's mainly because I also use it for off-stage functionality like video editing and some other functions that I needed that additional power for. But for the stage use, it's predominantly not being worked very hard. You are going to need an application that will enable you to play the sounds that you need, and then you'll need a way to get those sounds from the device through to the front of house so the audience can share in that excellence you've created. Let's start with the connectivity. Getting the sound from your iPad to the front of house can be as simple as purchasing a headphone jack cable with an XLR male on the other end of it. Alternatively, you could get an audio adapter like the Rode VXLR Plus that takes a headphone cable and converts one end to an XLR at the other end. The challenge with modern iPads though is they no longer have a headphone jack. So your options then become a USB-C to XLR cable or a USB-C to headphone cable and then the headphone cable to XLR cable. I've not used the USB to XLR approach, and my search on the internet only showed USB to female XLR, which would then need to have a converter on the back to convert from female to male to be able to connect into the front of house, which is going to be coming through with a female end. So that option gives you a number of cable elements which can be prone to fault or noise. Also, once you've used the USB port for sound, you can then no longer provide power to your iPad at the same time. For a short set, this might be okay. The iPad may have enough power for you, but I always find it's a good idea to keep the device powered if you can. The option I went for was to include a USB-C hub, which gives me a headphone port, a USB port, which I use for my Macmillan 12-step, and allows me to power the iPad. It also has a VGA out and some card readers. I don't use the card readers, but I could, and I don't use the HDMI adapter. While the cable option is simple, it doesn't have the best outcome for your sound. As I said, multiple connections means multiple noise points, multiple failure points. Front of house engineers often use DI boxes to provide a balanced signal for bass guitars and keyboards. So this would seem to be the best practice for our iPad as well. Using a standard active or passive DI like the Radial J48 that I use in my home studio, we can use our headphone to XLR cable solution and connect into the DI, which is then routed to front of house by the engineer. So we're now going from headphone to DI, and the DI is then providing the balanced connection out to front of house. Bit cleaner. Alternatively, I use a small DI that's specifically designed for this type of usage. It's a Radial Stagebug. It has a 3.5mm headphone jack on it, and it can go direct to the front of house via the balanced XLR out. It also has a lift, allowing me to get rid of stage noise or line noise. This is a balanced mono out. So stereo in, mono out. What it also does have though, is it also has a left and right 1/4 inch, which I can then send as line level to the desk. So balanced or line level, depending on how I want to use it. For my use in a live setting, the mono XLR is more than sufficient. The sound engineer gives me an XLR mic cable. I plug it into the back of this, and then he goes away and deals with his end. This end I deal with connecting into my USB hub, and I'm done on my end. Once you're set up, this is what it should look like. iPad on the microphone stand, Stagebug plugged into the USB-C hub, USB-C hub plugged into the iPad, and then you run a cable from that back to your front of house. Simple as that. There are other DI types on the market, and I'm not aware of all of them, but I do know that Radial also make other specialized DI boxes, such as the BT Pro V2, which you can connect to your iPad over Bluetooth. I didn't go with this option at the time because it wasn't available when I was buying the Stagebug. And depending on how you feel about using Bluetooth on stage, again, we're talking the distance between your iPad and your DI pedal, which should be way less than the 10-meter range of Bluetooth, so it should be more than fine. And then there's also the USB Pro, which converts USB to a left and right XLR output. These are specifically designed for use with laptops and would work really, really well if connected into the USB port on your USB hub. I didn't go that path as the DIs are relatively bulky, and I was looking for something much more simple to keep in my gig bag for when I wanted to use it and not take much space. Hence the Stagebug SB5 that I use. Well, we've been specifically talking about miking up an iPad. All of the connectivity options we just talked through will also 100% work with a laptop. So if you're going to be using a laptop or a MacBook in your scenario, you can still use any of these options. If you're going with a laptop, I would probably recommend a USB DI box. I have no issues using the headphone connection. The simplest thing to use is to have a sound file playback. We use a short intro sound clip for a song which starts with the sounds of a woman walking along a city street as an intro to one of our original songs. It's what the listener hears when they listen to the recorded version, so we've included it into the opening of our set. In order to play this, I've simply embedded the MP3 we use on the album into Band Helper into the song. When that song comes up in the list, I click on the sound file in the song and hey presto, sound of a walking woman in a street with noises in the background. For more complex or automated sound playback in the laptop world, Ableton Live is the go. In the iPad world, I've found that AUM or even GarageBand can work for you if you're looking for that extended type of function. I'm going to cover AUM in a later video, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and get notified when that comes out. For synths, loops and drums, a quick search on the App Store will show a large number of synth applications that includes drums, loops, various synths of various different manufacturer types. As a non-keyboard player, I've gone with the synth modules that are either very easy for me to understand. In my bass player world, my go-to synth app is the Sunriser Synth by Beep Street. But I'm also using iMini by Arturia if I'm looking for a mini Moog sound, and occasionally the OBXD app if I'm looking for some Van Halen synth sounds. There's a number of presets dialed in for 80s rock synths like Jump and Dreams. There's even Axel F and 1999 by Prince, if you're that old. Each of these sound modules work great depending on the soundscape in your head and the willingness you have to learn these amazing instruments. You can even combine synth modules using an app like AUM. Again, I'm going to be covering AUM in a later video, but you can check out Logan J. Smith on this link on his great insight on setting up and using AUM on your iPad. Also, Scott Uhl has a great video on using an app called Multitracker that he uses to load and play backing tracks on his iPad. You can check out his video above as well. This would be a great alternative to live. The inclusion of an iPad into your live gig rig is something that you can use to master your live gigs. Playing sounds as a synth or drum module, or even to play your backing tracks, it can do it all. Plus, it can also help you to manage your set lists, control your in-ear mix. It can even help with your emails, your calendar, and catching up on the latest Twisting on Bass YouTube videos. Don't forget to subscribe below. With the help of some key applications, a USB-C hub, and a small DI like the Stagebug, the iPad is a powerful and reliable instrument that you can use in your live rig. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your fellow bass players and other musicians, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life bass guitar tips, tricks, and covers played from the bass player's point of view. If you've got questions or if there's something specific you'd like me to cover in future videos, please drop a comment. Also, if you're using an iPad, please let us know. Is it working for you? Is it not working for you? I'd love to hear from you. See you later.